The NBA has officially lost its mind. John Morant, Giannis, Jaylen Brown, all on different teams. I want to go through each one of those big trades and talk about the winners, losers, and why some of these trades are being done in the first place. The first one we got to start off with is Jaylen Brown. And I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, it's not quite like at the Luka level crazy or the James Harden trade from OKC to Houston, but it's pretty dang close. I mean, it's pretty surprising what the Celtics did. Just to recap the trade, the Sixers get Jaylen Brown, Celtics get Paul George, a 2028 first, 2031 first from Philadelphia, two second round picks in 2028 and 2030. Why would Philly do this? Well, they get off the Paul George contract. It's a pretty clear cut reason on why to do the trade, and Jaylen Brown is also better than Paul George. It's a no brainer for them, in my opinion. On the other hand, why would the Celtics do it? Well, you could argue, okay, they get some cap flexibility maybe down the line, but it's not really because you're saving 2 years. Sorry, you're just saving 1 year from Jaylen Brown's contract to Paul George's contract. Jaylen Brown's contract is 3 more years, and Paul George's is 2 more years. So I don't think that's a reason that like a lot of people keep going back to, and I do think it's part of it. I don't think it's the full story. I don't think Brad Stevens liked the way that Jaylen Brown played, possibly, and I don't think he liked the way the team played overall. And maybe he thinks that Paul George is just a better fit in terms of spacing and in terms of playing the type of basketball they want to play. Now down the line, it would be hard to keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, having them having them have 70% of the team's salary. That's a lot. If you're a max player, you get 35% with the 7+ years of experience. So they do get some draft capital back. They could use that draft capital to make a trade down the line and get a player that maybe wouldn't cost that much compared to Jaylen Brown. I still am very much against this trade for the Celtics. I think there were better deals on the table. I wonder if Domantas Sabonis for Jaylen Brown, maybe the Kings throw in a pick, would that have gotten a deal done? Would that have been a better deal for the Celtics? I personally think so. Why wouldn't the Raptors trade what they traded for Jaylen Brown? It just doesn't make sense why they would rather have Kawhi Leonard than Jaylen Brown. Because Kawhi Leonard went for more, which we'll get into. But before that deal, I want to talk about the Walker Kessler trade to the Lakers, because this was a little bit surprising too, in some sense. Lakers get Walker Kessler. Jazz receive a 2031 unprotected first, a 2033 unprotected first, a 2028 first round swap, and a 2030 first round swap. I mean, that is a lot. You're giving control of 4 first round picks for the Lakers for this player who hasn't played a lot of games. And I like Walker Kessler. I think he has a lot of potential. You're getting him while he's young, which is really good. And this deal for the Jazz, I mean, they are just getting more fruits for that trade with that they traded for Rudy Gobert. You get all the picks that you got for Rudy Gobert, and you get Walker Kessler, and you turn Walker Kessler into more first round picks. I mean, this is an A+ trade for the Jazz. A+. And for the Lakers, I understand it. I think it's a little too much. You're paying Walker Kessler about $32 million per year, I want to say. You have to give up 4 first round picks. You do get a rim running big, but he's not like a rim runner like Derek Lively or Gafford. So he's not going to be as good at catching lob threats compared to those guys, in my opinion. He is a really good rim protector, arguably better than both of those guys. Now, it's a lot. I would say it's still a lot. There weren't a lot of other options, And it's just these 7-foot giants are not easy to find. So I understand the deal. He also helps with rebounding as well. And they've been looking for a long-term center, someone to fill that position at the center position. And obviously, DeAndre Ayton wasn't getting it done. So, again, A-plus trade for the Jazz. Love it. Kawhi Leonard. This one baffles me. I'm probably against consensus on this trade. I don't see how, again, Jaylen Brown went for less than what Kawhi Leonard has gone for. To recap the trade details, Kawhi Leonard goes to the Raptors. Clippers get Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, unprotected 2031 first, unprotected 2033 first, a swap in 2027, and 2 second-round picks. That's a lot for a player who's 35 years old, who hasn't stayed healthy for the last 7 years. And the one series that he was healthy for, they lost in the first round to Denver. So, I mean, that was a great performance by him in that series. But overall, I'm questioning, okay, like, you're trading for an unhealthy 35-year-old player and giving up 3 first-round picks? I'm sorry, why wouldn't the Raptors try to trade for Jaylen Brown and give the same package? Jaylen Brown's a younger player who's going to at least play in the regular season, who's going to play in the playoffs. That's something that we don't talk a lot about, is like, the best ability is your availability, right? And so I get it, like, you want that reunion, with Kawhi Leonard. It's a great story, and he will help them win now. At the same time, you're mortgaging a large part of your future. You're mortgaging a large part of your future for Kawhi Leonard, and I don't agree with it. So I'm going to give this, I understand it again. I'm going to give it more of a C- trade for Toronto, maybe even a D, because you're not going to be able to compete with OKC. You're not going to be able to compete with San Antonio. So you did get better by making this trade. There's no doubt about that. Kawhi Leonard is a better player than Brandon Ingram. You did get better, but you sacrificed a large part of your future, and I'm not betting on that guy staying healthy, especially in the playoffs. No offense to Kawhi Leonard. For the Clippers, A-plus trade. You recoup some of the draft assets you obviously gave up to get Kawhi Leonard to come there. Obviously nowhere near as much as what it took, but still you got something back. And I like that betting against Toronto, because Kawhi Leonard is not going to be playing in 2031 and 2033. He's not going to be playing at that point. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Raptors are at that time. Miles Bridges. Let's talk about that trade. So Suns get Miles Bridges, a 2029 first, a 2027 second. Hornets get Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, a 2033 first. The most valuable trade asset in this piece is not Miles Bridges. It's the 2033 first. Because that first, the further you go out with the first, the more valuable they get. And I'll talk about a little bit about like how many first we're seeing get traded so far out. But why does Phoenix do this trade? They get a bigger forward. There's the Michigan State ties. They get athleticism. I do think he fits their starting lineup pretty well. But one, he has some history that makes it tough to root for the guy. And again, you're giving up a very valuable trade asset where you don't know if Devin Booker is going to be on the team in 2033. You don't know who's going to be on that team. So the Hornets shorting the Suns, I would do that trade 10 days out of 10. So I love that trade for the Hornets, A-plus trade. They are getting worse potentially in the short term. Well, I don't even know if they are getting worse, because Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal can play. And they got actually deeper by making that trade. The Hornets keep stacking these picks. They stacked picks in the LaMelo trade, and they could use those picks to trade for someone in the future. And they didn't think LaMelo could be that guy. So if you don't think LaMelo could be that guy, take picks from that trade, take picks from this trade, get some, either use those picks to, move up in the draft in the, in the coming future, or use those picks to trade for a future star later on. Because it's not taking a whole bunch of picks to trade for stars, apparently. Um, Depending on which star. I mean, obviously, Jaylen Brown didn't go for very much. John Morant to the Blazers is one trade I did not see coming at all. They already had a bunch of guards. I thought maybe with Sharp and with Scoot Henderson that they would be trying to build around those guys, along with having Damian Lillard kind of mentor those guys. Instead, they're going to have John Morant also mentor them too, which I'm not sure if that's the type of culture you want on a team, but hey, they have a new owner. They want to make a big swing. They're going to sell tickets. I do kind of see it from their perspective. They do have a lot of guards. They have Drew Holiday still. So it's like, who's going to be starting for their team? If I had to guess right now, it'd probably be Dame and Ja. And I also wonder if obviously they could make some more trades down the line. I don't see them moving Scoot. I don't see them moving Sharp. I do think those guys are their future. But I wonder if they're thinking like, hey, we are kind of in like a two timeline scenario. Maybe we could try to win now with Ja and with Lillard, and we could have the young guys learn from them and then eventually take over in a few years. This is kind of what like that two timelines Golden State scenario was in some sense. But this one actually seems like it might work better because I think John Morant was a great buy low candidate. They didn't have to give up much. They gave up a horrible Jeremy Grant contract and Chris Murray. That's not a whole lot. So I kind of get taking a swing on John Morant. And if it doesn't work out, you could buy him out. And if it doesn't work out and you buy him out, there's not going to be many teams that are interested in him at that point. He knows that this is one of his last big chances that he's going to be able to be one of the stars of a team. Because if he gets bought out, he's more likely going to be a bench player or someone that a team is not heavily invested into. So Portland, they heavily invest into him for 2 years, the same length of contract that Jeremy Grant's contract was for, and they're going to see if it pans out. And I don't hate the deal. You got to take a swing. I also think like, hey, Lillard isn't going to be able to get into the paint as much as he probably did before because of his injury history with the Achilles tear and because of his age. So at least Ja can get downhill along with Denny Avdia, and Lillard could be that spacer. And we already know he's a great three-point shooter still because he won the three-point shooting contest not that long ago. So I do kind of see the fit. And on Memphis' side, I mean, you just wanted to get rid of him, reset the culture, move on. And I don't blame them for that. Maybe they'll buy out Jeremy Grant eventually, but I mean, I could see them keeping him for a year also. Smaller trade, DeAndre Ayton to the Wizards. Lakers get Jaden Hardy, 2 second-round picks. Speaking of teams who want to get rid of a player, the Lakers couldn't wait to get rid of Ayton probably. And the Wizards are like, hey, he could come off the bench. I think they still start Sarr. If things aren't working out with Sarr, then maybe they do start Ayton. Small trade. Again, I like it rather more for the Lakers' perspective, but I get why Washington does this trade. Trade before the draft that I never talked about, Giannis and Bobby Portis going to the Bucks. Going to the Heat for Tyler Hero, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Hawkes, Kasparas Yakachonis, Nate Ament, who was the 13th pick, a 2031 first, a 2033 first, a 2030 first round swap, and a 2033 second. I think the further free agency has gone, this Giannis trade looks even better because I do see that teams are a little bit reluctant to trade their first round picks. Certain teams, I would say, and I mean they basically got control of the first four first in this deal. And if the reporting is correct that the Celtics didn't want to trade for Giannis because they didn't want to give him an extra year, I think that would have been a mistake. And I understand they want flexibility. It looks like that's why they made the Jaylen Brown trade. They didn't want to be committed 3 years down the line to someone making over 35% of the cap. The Celtics didn't want to do it. So at the end of the day, I think it's a great trade for Milwaukee. They know that they can't get their first back and that they had to trade Giannis now. And I think they did well because I still like Jokic, and they could flip some of those other assets. I think they try to build around Nate Ament, Khalil Ware, Braden Burries, Jokic. I like their team. They're not going to win a lot of games, but hey, they don't have the first round pick, so if they get in the relegation zone, who cares? Now, before I end the video, I want to talk about the amount of firsts that were traded and in what year. The most firsts that were traded were the 2033 firsts. 8 of them were traded. And they were in the trades that I mentioned. They were also in the LaMelo Ball trade, which I had talked about earlier in one of my past videos. That's a lot of firsts that are being traded that far out. The next would be the 2030 first. 6 of those. Again, that's a lot. I'm including swaps in this. So it seems to me that there's teams that are not really willing to trade firsts. And there's teams that are willing to trade them because they want to win now. And the teams that want to win now have already kind of dug themselves a hole where they've already mortgaged some of those firsts that are coming up. So they have no choice but to trade the further out first. And it's risky because, again, no one knows what's going to happen in 2033. By that time, your team is going to look completely different. And so what do you have? What are the options you have? Well, let's say, for example, the LaMelo Ball trade doesn't work well for Minnesota. Well, they could mortgage. Obviously, they get control of more first, after each year goes by. And then are you going to end up trading those first? And so do you just keep mortgaging more and more of your future until you have no choice but to just rebuild? And we've seen this before. We've seen this with Milwaukee. That's why Milwaukee traded their first to try to build around Giannis, and they were unable to. After a certain point, they knew they had to cut ties with Giannis. And so we could definitely see that with an Anthony Edwards situation. We could see that with the Scotty Barnes situation. It is a very scary thing to do. And so that's why I don't like the trade for certain teams doing that pulling that move, trading a first that far down the line. I don't like it for the Raptors, and I do get it though from Philly's side, because at least that player you're getting in return is younger, and you also are trying to get off the Paul George contract. So it's not like a black and white situation, but it is something where it's like I would try to look elsewhere if I can, and if I couldn't do it, then I get it. I get it from the LaMelo side. I get it from Minnesota's side. So again, it's just very interesting that we've seen that many first outside, that far out being traded. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Revneet. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.